I love Paige to death. Do not get me wrong. I think, I think she's a hell of a player and, would love to play with her one day. But those refs were giving her every freaking whistle last night. You literally couldn't touch her. And that's so annoying to me.
You're watching Sophie Cunningham on her podcast, and she's talking about her post-surgery recovery. But instead of the typical athlete interview about getting back on the court, she's discussing her constipation issues with the same casual energy most people use to talk about the weather. As Sophie put it on her recent podcast episode, "I've been literally just inhaling food and nothing's come out." Most athletes would never share something like that publicly, but Sophie isn't most athletes. While sports media focuses on her role as the WNBA's tough defender, there's a lot more happening behind the scenes. She's building a media presence, making smart business moves, and showing a level of basketball knowledge that goes way beyond just being physical on the court.
Hydro.
Yes, Hydros. Yes.
Yeah, we'll just go with the nickname.
That was Hydros. I was on Hydros, was not working. I could feel every little cut and incision they did on my knee. And so then I got to Oxy, and you're only supposed to take one, but again, I've got a low tolerance.
If you've only seen the headlines about Sophie Cunningham, you're missing the bigger picture. Let me show you what's really going on with one of the most interesting players in women's basketball right now. Sophie's Show Me Something podcast with co-host Wes Wilson has become a window into who she actually is, and it's not what you'd expect from watching her play defense on Caitlin Clark's behalf. During her recent episode while recovering from knee surgery, Sophie talked about everything from pain medication to basketball strategy to family life. When discussing her surgery recovery, she said, "I react so weird to pain meds. I was on Hydros, was not working. I could feel every little cut and incision they did on my knee." But here's what makes the podcast interesting.
A little bit more money, a little bit better options. But I will say Phoenix did a really good job of team housing. We stayed at the nicest places. And then Indiana, they really take care of you here too. So I've been lucky there, because there's some teams that not great.
Sophie switches seamlessly from personal stories to sharp basketball analysis. When talking about the Minnesota Lynx, she gave this breakdown. Everyone on their floor can shoot, everyone cuts, everyone passes the ball. They make the simple pass, and the ball movement that they have is ridiculous. She called Lynx coach Cheryl Reeve a genius and explained exactly why their offense works so well. This isn't just casual observation. Sophie understands basketball at a level that most fans never get to hear about. Her podcast episodes consistently show fans saying they love her authenticity.
Sophie basically addressed this, and she was like, "I'm friends with Bria. I do not think that she did this on purpose. She wouldn't do this on purpose. She would not hurt me. I'm actually really close with her." So she wanted to address it on her podcast to kind of cool that narrative.
While Sophie jokes around on the podcast, she's also making some smart business decisions. She mentioned an upcoming collaboration with Kristen Juszczyk, the designer who makes custom jackets for NFL players and their families. As Sophie explained it, she is going to the W, and so I'm going to be one of the first W players to rock her style in tomorrow's tunnel fit. This isn't just about wearing nice clothes, it's about positioning herself in the fashion space while the WNBA's visibility is growing. Her approach to fashion is practical too. When discussing her style choices, Sophie said, "Everything I wear is from eBay or thrift shop. I've kind of carved my own little niche for fashion. It's like individual pieces. This isn't about being cheap, it's about being smart."
Our first week, what people had to say, well, the WNBA fined me. They fined me $1,500. But when it is a simple call right in front of your face multiple times, what are you doing?
What call are you bugged out?
All of them.
Instead of spending thousands on designer clothes that everyone else is wearing, Sophie creates a unique look while saving money. That's the kind of thinking that translates to good business decisions. She's also thinking about other opportunities. When discussing the US Open's signature cocktail that makes millions in revenue, Sophie said, "If people are making 10 million, you have me messed up. We've drank it enough that we can come up with our own." Sophie's basketball knowledge goes deeper than her reputation as an enforcer suggests. During her podcast, she traced the evolution of modern players back to veterans like Candace Parker. She was kind of the first, like, point forward, I would say, Sophie explained. She's 6'4", 6'5". She can handle the ball, she can shoot it, but also, if you try to put a little guard on her, she's gonna take you to the post.
I'm like, what? I'm like, this is just the beginning. I was like, you're kidding. Oh,
way.
I email our GM, and she pulls me aside and she goes, come here, Soph, I have to talk to you. And this was in like front of everybody. And I was like, what did I do now? And she just smiled and she goes, hey, they're going to find you again. They're like,
this shows Sophie thinks about basketball history and how the game has changed. She understands that versatility is what makes players valuable in today's game. When analyzing current players, her insights are detailed. Talking about Nafisa Collier, someone she's played against since middle school, Sophie said, she's probably the best player in our league. She's a hell of a player. Like, she has everything in her bag, but she also can guard 1 through 5, and then she can shoot 3 ball. These aren't generic compliments. Sophie is breaking down specific skills and explaining why they matter. This is coach level analysis coming from someone who's actually playing against these players.
And then what did you make of Sophie Cunningham's flagrant foul on JC towards the end?
It was a flagrant foul.
Do you think it's like defending Caitlin or defending the team, or how do you view just how it all?
I view it as a flagrant foul.
Here's where Sophie really showed her character. After her season-ending injury in a collision with Bria Hartley, fans immediately assumed the worst. Photos of Hartley appearing to smile after the play spread on social media, and people demanded punishment. Sophie's response surprised everyone. On her podcast, she said, I know Bria, and I'm actually really good friends with Bria, and I have been waiting to get on the pod, and so we could talk about this because I did want to tweet it out. But I don't think that there was no ill intent. I think it was a basketball play. She went further, saying, I was like, Bria and I are super cool, and like, she would never try to hurt me, because there are some girls that I think might, but she wouldn't do that.
played the old team. You know, there was maybe a little bit of beef because of our last podcast.
You think this is becoming a rival?
Our teams don't really like each other anyway, just because of like, I don't know, just kind of like her leaving. Some of those players used to be under our coaching staff. And so there's just like a lot there.
Think about this situation. Sophie had every reason to be angry. She's out for the season with a torn MCL. Fans were ready to crucify Hartley on her behalf. But instead of going along with the outrage, Sophie defended her opponent. Even when her own family got involved, Sophie tried to calm things down. She mentioned telling her mother, no mom, like I get it, but like I promise you that like I was like Bria and I are super cool. This kind of response takes real maturity. It would have been easy to let fans stay angry at Hartley. Instead, Sophie chose to be honest about what she thought actually happened. On August 31st, the Connecticut Sun announced that Hartley would miss the remainder of the season due to a meniscus tear in her right knee, sustained during team practice on Friday, August 30th. The timing was striking. This came just days after Sophie had publicly defended Hartley against accusations of dirty play. The fan reaction was immediate and telling. Social media filled with celebrations, with people calling it karma and justice. One fan wrote, "What goes around comes around. Karma is always behind you, ready and waiting." Another fan said, "I am glad you got hurt, Hartley, and I am smiling over it." This response highlighted exactly why Sophie's measured approach was so important. While fans were celebrating another athlete's injury, Sophie had already shown what real sportsmanship looks like. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. Sophie, the actual victim of the collision, had said about Hartley, "I have nothing but love for Bria. I hope people stop giving Bria some heat because I don't think she meant to do that at all." Meanwhile, fans who weren't even involved were calling for revenge and celebrating when Hartley got hurt. This situation revealed something important about sports culture. Sophie understood what many fans missed, that athletes are human beings first, competitors second. Getting injured is never fun, regardless of past actions or team loyalties.
Oh, listen to this. They said for my age and for like what I do for a living that my knees are looking real nice. I said,
Oh, yeah.
That's what he said.
Both injuries, Sophie's torn MCL and Hartley's meniscus tear, point to a larger issue in women's basketball that Sophie has been talking about all season: player safety and the physical nature of the game. The WNBA has seen a concerning number of injuries this season, As Sophie noted on her podcast, the Indiana Fever alone lost multiple key players to season-ending injuries. Sophie herself had been fined multiple times this season for criticizing officiating, particularly around player protection. When Sophie said, "I hope people stop giving Bria some heat," she wasn't just defending a friend. She was showing how professional athletes actually think about competition versus how fans often interpret it. Professional players understand that injuries happen in physical sports. They know the difference between accidental contact and intentional harm. They also know that celebrating anyone's injury, regardless of team allegiance, ultimately hurts the sport they love. Hartley's injury, coming during practice rather than a game, emphasized how unpredictable injuries can be. This was someone who had already battled back from multiple ACL tears to have a strong comeback season, averaging 8.9 points and 3.1 assists for Connecticut. The meniscus tear ended what had been a successful return to the WNBA after nearly 3 years away. Sophie's response to both her own injury and Hartley's subsequent injury showed the difference between being a competitor and being vindictive. She competed hard on the court but maintained perspective off it. Understanding Sophie means understanding where she came from. Her high school basketball success in Missouri shaped how she approaches competition and team dynamics. Fans often mention her winning multiple state championships, though the exact details vary in different accounts. What's clear is that Sophie learned how to win at a high level early in her career. This background shows up in how she talks about basketball. When discussing team chemistry, Sophie said, "I think the teams that you find or see successful in our league, everyone on the floor can score, and it's mainly shooters or they can get to the rim or cutters." Like, she understands that individual talent only goes so far. Like, teams win when everyone knows their role and can contribute.
Like, and if you're gonna do that, then give it to our guards. Like, I just hate the inconsistencies. Or we know she's a good rookie and like she's gonna get some whistles, but like to get the treatment she got last night was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Sophie's approach to playing in different cities shows her character. Instead of staying loyal only to her hometown teams, she genuinely engages with each place she plays. I like to kind of indulge myself of where my 2 feet are at and like what city I'm in, Sophie explained. And so like when I was in Phoenix, I became a Diamondbacks fan and a Cardinals fan and like a Coyotes fan. She continued, "And so here I've definitely become a Pacers fan. I think that I'll definitely go and check out the Colts." This isn't fake marketing. Sophie genuinely tries to connect with the communities where she plays. Sophie Cunningham is doing something interesting in professional sports. She's being completely herself while also being smart about building her career beyond basketball. Her podcast shows fans who she really is, which creates stronger connections than typical athlete interviews. Her business partnerships make sense with her personality and style. Her basketball analysis proves she's thinking about the game at a deep level. Most importantly, she's showing that you can be tough on the court and gracious off it. You can defend teammates aggressively and still maintain friendships with opponents. You can be authentic without being unprofessional. What makes Sophie's approach work is consistency. The person on the podcast is the same person who defended Bria Hartley despite fan pressure. The player who stands up for Caitlin Clark is the same one who gives thoughtful analysis of opponent strengths. This consistency is rare in professional sports, where athletes often feel pressure to present different versions of themselves for different audiences. Sophie has figured out how to be herself in all situations, which makes everything else, the podcast, the business opportunities, the team relationships, more authentic and more effective. Sophie Cunningham isn't trying to be revolutionary or groundbreaking. She's just being herself while being smart about her career. But the result is pretty interesting. She's showing that WNBA players can build media platforms that go beyond basketball highlights. She's proving that authenticity works better than manufactured personas. She's demonstrating that you can compete hard while maintaining good relationships. The response to her podcast and her handling of the injury situation shows that fans appreciate this approach. People want to connect with athletes as real people, not just as performers. As Sophie recovers from her knee injury and prepares for whatever comes next, she's already built something that will last beyond her playing career, not because she set out to build an empire, but because she decided to be genuine while being smart about opportunities. That's probably the most important lesson from Sophie Cunningham's story. Success comes from being consistently yourself while making good decisions along the way. If you want to see more content about athletes who are doing interesting things beyond just their sport, make sure to subscribe. There are plenty more stories like this one out there.